Hi, I'm Holly, I'm a writer, and today you don't get a wave because I'm the cat. I'm assuming you can see her. If you can't, sorry, there's a cat. You can definitely see her tail. But basically, I needed to do a querying update, and I don't really have that much to say, which I'll explain why. The lighting is insane today, sorry. It's just natural sunlight, so it's going to be on and off. But I also thought I would do a little health update because I feel like my health is actually kind of relevant at the minute. There we go. She's gone. So basically, I'm gonna start with the querying update because I feel like that's what most people care about. But basically, for Formation Lab, I have sent more queries off, and I am gonna still keep querying it. However, I kind of forgot for so long. Last year, I think I sent out some queries in September. I had a new query letter, I had a new synopsis, I had like the new manuscript that I rewrote in like the summer, and it objectively was very much better. I got a full request within like a week of sending out one of those queries to somebody that I literally was not expecting to care about the book. And then that didn't go anywhere, but like to be honest, I just forgot to query because there was okay, so I had a friend who was reading it for me who was going to give some feedback, and she did say that I could query it, but by the time, and like it wouldn't make a difference the feedback that she had necessarily, but I was waiting anyway for something else, like an agent, I think, who was off the like you couldn't do it yet, and she was gonna be back soon. So I was like, well, I'll wait. And then to be honest, I've kind of like, I don't know who else to query. It's really difficult to find people because it's such a specific thing that I don't want to query somebody who's not got any interest in Formula One, but I also don't know how to find out that they have an interest in Formula One. And so I just like stopped. And I don't really know what else to say about that because that's kind of just it. I remembered and started doing it again in like January, and then I've kind of forgotten again because it's just like I can't really be bothered. I think while I am gonna keep querying it, in my head I've almost like moved on from it. I still want it to be published. I still think that it is a book that deserves to be seen and that there is a market for. However, I think that the book that I'm writing right now is maybe a better one to query and to, be more representative of like what I actually want to write as a whole, and the way that my work is going to be, because I think that that is the kind of, even not the specific plot, but like the way the story is presented is how I think most of my stories are going to be presented. And so I've been considering, I can't do it because of like money and the effort that is needed. I just can't give that right now, but I have considered that I could self-publish the Formation Lab books, and basically when I'm in a better place to do that, I would be able to give them to people and have them be out there readable, but without them necessarily being the books that I necessarily get published with first and that I become like known for, right? Which is kind of a strange thing to say because this channel started when that was like my plan. But the more that I grow as a person, the more that I really am sort of realizing that a lot of my stories, even if they're very different in genre, they have more similar sort of thematic, and in terms of like the presentation, they're like the newer book that I'm writing. And I just feel like it would make more sense for that to be the book that I get published first. And so I'm not obviously going to say no if somebody tries to publish Formation Lab for me, but I'm just not, my heart isn't like in it. And I think because querying is such a hard thing to go through, even when your book is like perfect and you have so much faith in it, I'm just in a really weird place. And so I don't know how to update querying because I'm not in a place where I'm really focusing on it, and so I'm not thinking about it like ever. And if I get a rejection, I'm just like, yeah, right. I'm just like past it mentally. And I think that, you know, self-publishing, like certain novels that don't necessarily fit with like the broader, you know, catalogue that I aim to have one day, it's something that I had considered before. I have Sex and the City, basically like set in the 2000s with queer friendly, like, you know, instead of like 4 women who like men, it's 4 women who are all different in their sexuality, and they, you know, it's kind of like Sex and the City the show, but a little bit more me. And I think that, for example, that it's not something that's at all like anything that else that I would ever publish. So maybe that would be a good self-published thing as well. So like, it's not something that I've never considered. It's just that I never thought I would feel that way about Formation Lab. But then at the time, I didn't know how many of my books, like I hadn't really considered. I did a thing a few weeks ago, I think I mentioned this somewhere, somehow, that I had written like a list of all of the book ideas that I have and grouped them into sort of batches that would make sense together, so that I can focus on actually writing things that would make sense to be released in the order that I write them, right? Because otherwise I feel like, you know, I'm at a point where I'm starting to really take the writing that I do seriously. I've done a lot of experimentation with my genres and with pushing myself, and I think that it's time that I push myself to be sort of writing as if I'm writing to be published, because that's kind of what I'm gonna need to do. And I'm at a point where it's like so close that I might as well just start. And so I know now which ones kind of fit and which ones don't, and which ones therefore might be better being self-published. You know, which ones would maybe be better if they were, you know, published under my name, but published under my name in a way that was less highly associated with my name. Which sounds so dumb because I haven't even got a single book and I'm thinking about this, but I think that it is important to consider these different things. And I just thought I would say that. This video shouldn't be very long, which it might be quite long for some people. For me, it will be pretty short. The other thing I wanted to talk about, as I said, was a health update. This is, I'm not going to say too much because, like, literally, who even cares, you know? But basically, I have had like so many tests, and they found that it's not one thing, which means that it is the other thing. And the doctor who I spoke to about the other thing was like, yeah, that sounds like it. I've already, for the past few years, been on the first course of treatment that they give. So they're moving ahead with the other stuff. I've got a referral to a place. I've got another appointment on like some point this week. I don't know which day. Because apparently there is something wrong with my throat, which is very funny because I was told for a really long time that that was just an anxiety symptom, and I was like, never had this before, literally never in my life had this problem before with anxiety. This is extreme, like, are we being serious? And yeah, there is something actually wrong with it that they saw on one of the tests, and so they're sending me to a specialist, which came through really quickly. But basically, because I now know that it's probably definitely this thing, which was always a possibility. I believe that I had this for a really long time. I was just hoping that this wasn't the thing that was causing it, because it's really annoying. And it's not something that they can like cure, you know? But basically, I have kind of reached a point in my life where I feel, I said this on the podcast, I feel for the first time like an actual adult. I don't feel like I'm pretending to be an adult. I don't feel particularly like childish. I've started to really like who I am, and, you know, to appreciate parts of my life that I didn't appreciate before. I'm ready to live my life and be serious about it, and I'm physically being limited with how I can do that, but I'm gonna push myself, and I'm gonna try and make myself a little bit less restricted by kind of pushing slowly but surely what I consider to be uncomfortable. Because if you get used to being uncomfortable in one way, then you can do stuff that would have previously made you too uncomfortable to do it. And so I'm going to start that a little bit. I've been... Big news. I know that I probably have seemed fine. I was really bad. I could not eat dinner unless I was in bed. Physically could not do it. I've been eating at my desk. I had actually dinner downstairs the other week, which was really big and it took a while. But I ate all of it and I did it and it was fine. And I just think that like eating at my desk is one of those things that I used to do a lot, especially like when I was living at uni. And I would eat at my desk and I would put a thing on my tablet and watch like a film on my iPad, and I would maybe play on my computer a bit or something, and I would just sit there and I would sort of eat at a desk. And I've been doing that and I've been really enjoying it. I actually have been watching also classic films and stuff, and like I say classic films, canon films, like if there's the literary canon, the film canon. I asked two of my friends who were both I don't know how to, they film majors. It's not what we call them in this country. But they studied film at university. I actually set them up as friends because I was like, oh, you're doing film, I know someone who's doing film, you should meet right now. And they hit it off, so that's great. But I was like, I said to them both individually, what are like the top this many films that like of all time? And I have gotten a subscription to a film service. Hi, handsome. Yeah. He's gonna probably very loud when he jumps down. Oh, cute. He did a little sort of chirp sound when he landed. I don't know why, but basically I have a list of films that I'm working through. I actually have this journal. My mum got me a journal because my brother lives abroad, so she got me this journal at like an airport, I think, I assume. And it's just really like, I've got a little sticker that I put in it for my movie journey, and it's quite wide. Like if I show you, like it's wider than a usual notebook would be. So I've just been writing like my thoughts. So I watched some Like It Hot, I watched Charade, which I actually really liked, and I finally watched When Harry Met Sally, which I'd just not seen. And I've basically just been writing in this journal and, you know, trying to keep track of these films that I've watched and watch like films that are culturally significant and in terms of like film are significant, because I think that stuff like that, again, it's about storytelling, right? Like I want to get better, and I've been listening to like my records actually on my record player rather than listening to the music that I have on my like phone. I want to get a bigger DVD collection so that I don't have to rely on streaming services ever, especially if I'm going to eat dinner at my desk a lot more, or eventually downstairs, when I've gotten that the way that I want it and I've maybe gotten a TV or something. I do have a DVD player and I can watch stuff on my computer while I sit and eat dinner. Not on my computer, on the DVD player, which I use the computer as like a monitor basically. But like it's the similar sort of stuff that I have been doing, but like the next level, which is basically my plan, is to do the next level. I also want to start going out and like writing in libraries and coffee shops, and there is a hair somewhere. A cat hair, apparently. I can always tell who a cat hair is from because they have different fur patterns, and it's always like so fun because sometimes I'll see a hair that is like from him and I'm like, why is that in this place? Because he never touches this. Like she touches this all the time, he never touches this, and like vice versa, and it's just really funny. Anyway, basically I am as healthy as I'm ever gonna be. That's not true. But it's gonna take a while before they can do anything because of how long the waiting list is for this specific thing. And so I'm just like, I'm going, you know? I'm pushing on, chugging along, and I'm gonna try and do that a little bit more and be a little bit more extreme in the things that I do. Try and get like my stamina back, try and get used to being outdoors for really long hours at times so I can get a job for the money, you know. I want to go back to university this year, so that's happening. I'm learning how to drive and I'm gonna go to university this year. Through hell or high water, I am getting there. If I have to sit there in misery, I will, but I'm going. I am writing this dissertation. I'm so excited for it. I actually just bought a few books for it. Because I had a gift card and I was like, you know what? I hate the idea of spending money on books like this, so I might as well just buy them with the gift card. So I did. But I think that there's, you know, stuff that I'm like accepting of right now in the way of what I'm capable of and what I haven't been doing because it was like too much. But that if I sort of slowly try and do it, maybe it won't be too much by the time that I need to do it. I have a show that I want to go to in April, so that's like 2 months for me to be capable of going and sitting in a room for like an hour and a bit. I so far would say that I'm doing better at that. My aim is to start like eating food outside and stuff. Not even necessarily sitting down outside, just to be like in an environment that's new and uncomfortable. And I think that when you've been ill for a while and then you find out that it's not going away, it can be really hot. Like, it's weird because I think a lot of people relate to the idea of like finding out what it isn't and being almost relieved that you know what it is as a result of knowing what it isn't. But also at the same time, like, I am fed up of the way that my life is because my brain mentally, like, I'm in a different place than I am physically, and I think that it goes with the writing in the sense that like I want to be able to push myself in my writing. I want to be able to go places and research them, and you know, I've put a stop on my project World War II, which still doesn't have a name, because I want to go and explore places, and I want to go and see like the archives, because there's like war records that I'm gonna need to know what is in them. And you can't always get them online. I've looked, it's so difficult to find them. But I might be able to get them if I go in person and just like borrow them like in the safe space that they designate for that stuff. And I think that, you know, stuff like that is stuff that I want to be able to do and that I can't currently do. So I'm working towards that, and I'm working towards being happier in general because my body isn't feeling like it's caving in on itself every day. And I'm starting to be better in the way that like I do certain things. And I'm pretty proud of myself. And I think that I'm making progress, and I've been getting dressed every single day. Even on the days where I feel kind of miserable, like sometimes I do wear pajama shorts in the house, which to be fair, I always used to do. Second I got home, I would change into pajama shorts. Sorry, but like, no. But I've been taking pride in my appearance and like in styling my hair and doing my makeup and doing these things because I want to do that stuff. And I never did it because, as I said, I didn't feel like an adult. And I don't know, I think maybe that, maybe in general that's why my writing is the way that it is right now. Like, maybe the reason why I'm moving on emotionally from Formation Lab is because I wrote the first book when I was in a very different place. I wrote it basically as an excuse to get out of bed every day when I physically couldn't do anything other than be in bed all day. It sometimes, like, I literally did write it in bed because I physically could not get out of bed that day and I felt so horrible. And I think that I just, you know, when you look at like my current project, it's a literary novel, it's much more mature in the themes. It feels very different, and I feel like maybe it's different because I'm a different person and maybe I've matured. I don't hate myself anymore. I used to really not like myself. I think that there's just like this progression that's happened, and I'm in a place where I just want to start really living my life the way that I dreamed of as a child, because I think now I know more than ever how valuable it is to be able to do that. And I just think that when you look at my writing, it's reflected in that. You know, the depressing moments have been influenced by my real life depression, by my anxiety, by the way that I know these symptoms to manifest. But the other moments have been impacted by my conversations with people, the good ones, the bad ones, the experiences that I have, the confliction between, you know, being like sort of sorry about something, but also being really angry that you have to be sorry about something. Like, I think that there's so much complexity in the world, and I think that I'm ready to start writing the books that I used to be intimidated at the thought of writing them because I didn't think I was good enough for them yet. I'm ready to start doing that, and I think that a big step in that is to prove to myself in the form of going out and doing stuff and living my life, even with this pain that I know is going to be here for a very long time, to just actually like accept that, you know, that's kind of what life is, and that I can write about that because I know that now. And I think even a few years ago, I probably technically did know that, but I didn't have any confidence in myself at all in any way. And I think it's kind of weird when you suddenly just look back and you're like, oh, I don't hate when I look at myself in the mirror. I don't feel disgusted by the thought of myself as a person. I don't cringe at the jokes that I tell. Even if I do kind of cringe at them, it's not in the sense that like, oh God, I want to bury myself in a hole and never come out. It's like, you know, like that's just who I am. And I think it's really weird to sort of see how that is impacting my relationship with my health, but also, as I said, my writing. And I don't know, I feel like I could probably ramble about this for a really long time and also not really say that much, but I'm in a really good place mentally, and I'm in a much better place than you would maybe expect physically, purely based off of the willpower that I have. On the days where I have no willpower, I do just sit curled up in a blanket in pajama shorts and just and I write like maybe 300 words, and I'm just like, I don't want to do anything. And then I go to bed and I'm like, yeah, this is the right thing to do. But I've been pushing myself, and I'm really proud of that. And I think that there's something to be said about, you know, the growth of a person and how it manifests. And in my case, how it happens to be that I quite like myself, and I'm pretty happy with the life that I have. Do wish that I wasn't not well, and that there wasn't, you know, a problem with my body that is never gonna go away. But I also think that 10 years ago is about when I started to notice this problem. Things were very different, and my outlook on it was very different. And I've changed a lot since then. And I've changed a lot since last year and 2 years ago. Barely the same person. And I just think that, you know, all of the experiences that I have are going to carry me forward in a way that I'm really hopeful about. So, yeah. I think what I'm going to do is, I'm actually at about 40,000 something words. I think I may be close to 50,000 actually. But I am aiming for like 75 to 80,000. I think what I'm gonna do is query that book, obviously when it's edited. I'm not gonna rush it, okay? But I might not do updates on Formation Lab, because I'm gonna be honest, my heart's not in it, and I don't think that I'm gonna really be able to give an update that is like anything at all of substance, and I just don't see the point. But I will add like a little update into, I guess, the querying videos that I do for the other book. And eventually, if I get the money and the physical ability, the time, the whatever, to self-publish Formation Lab, I really feel like that might be a good option for it. I feel like that would make sense. And I think that, you know, I will update you on that if that happens. But, you know, that's where we're at. I don't know what to say. It's like life, isn't it? There's a lot going on, and yet there's not a lot going on for me to actually update you on. So thank you for watching. I don't know what the next video I do will be. Quite possibly it will be a reading video. I actually did consider making a sort of video with like all of my favorite books, very long one, because I'm not too picky. I mean, I'm picky, but like I'm not like, oh well, this is my favorite book, so nothing else can come close, you know? Like if something is just as good, I know that it's just as good. So I might do a video about like talking about that, and then do a video about finishing my novel maybe, and then the editing process and stuff like that will follow. So I don't know what the next one will be, but thank you for watching this one, and I will see you hopefully in a week if I'm good and upload every week like I've been aiming to. Bye.